Everyone, welcome to this week's Deep Dive. I'm joined by the man, the legend, Josh Williams, for this one, where we talk about Alexander Isak. We did the show on him last week, me and Dan, but with Josh away, we had to do the show again, and my word, has he got some great insight for you. If you want the full show, then get over to redmenplus.com or get a YouTube membership. It's ad-free, and it will be on Redmen Plus forever. Ad-free, so yeah, get involved. Full show, about 50 minutes long. Enjoy. Alexander Isak can benefit Liverpool's system. I'll start with the forwards up there for you. And I suppose there's obviously conversation about how you think it's going to all line up, I suppose, as well, because it's always an interesting chat. Me and Dan went through loads last week. I think the general feeling for me anyway is, although there is times where I do think we'll see a lot of 4-2-4 and all that type of stuff, I think generally we're going to see a little bit, it's going to be more similar to last season than anything else. That's for me anyway. Yeah, no, I agree. I don't think the system will change that much in theory. I think the big difference though is the personnel and their impact on that. Like Frimpong is more of a runner than Trent, so we'll overlap more often. Wirtz is more of a 10 than Szoboszlai, so he'll roam and stay high more often, you could argue, track back a bit less. And Isak, you know, the players we were using in that spot last season, Jota, Nunes, Diaz, they all kind of had their own different interpretation of it and stuff like that, but Isak is complete enough, as we've already pointed out, to just kind of do bits of everything for you. So the system's going to change because of the players in it. But I think from Slot's perspective, it shouldn't change that much. Certainly, like shape-wise and stuff like that, because it did work at the end of the day. Like you're just using different kind of players. But I think if you think of how he can facilitate the rest of the team, like obviously we know he's actually going to do really well. But like just being able to drop, that's one thing I've been really impressed by looking at him. Just his ability to connect. I wrote in my piece that like, when I was watching the clips, I think an underrated element of his game is his way to pass. He's got a really good gauge on how heavy to hit a pass, a bit like Gerrard did. You know, when Gerrard just wrap it into your feet. Because in the final third, if you think about it, like it's hectic. You've got no time to lose. You've got no seconds to spare and like that. So he makes a decision on what to do and fires the ball into his players' feet really quickly. And it's just a really subtle trait that I found, but one that will benefit these fellas who are coming inside, because he can drop, as I've said, and he can find a way to pass, and then Salah or Gakpo converts. So I think that's one obvious way of helping it. But on top of it is, I think I'm going to put you on the spot here, but if you think of Ekatike, what would you say is one thing so far that doesn't look very refined attached to his game? I haven't teed Chris up for this, so it doesn't look up to it.
The other day Dan said it on the pod and I agreed with him, so I'd like to think it's widely held. It's not like a galaxy brain thing, it's just like an obvious thing that he hasn't been that great with
at Liverpool
so far.
I don't really know, to be honest with you, because I missed the Community Shield.
Yeah.
And so I've only really properly intently watched the Arsenal game. So I don't feel I'm in a position. I went back and rewatched the Newcastle game, but like I knew the result.
Well, the answer I was after was heading. That some of the headed chances he's had, to be honest, he's completely missed the target with. Bit of a 50p head. Isak offers that. And the height, same level of height. I think he's still 6'3", but Isak, I think, is better in the air. And one of the things I think we might have pointed out on a show not so long ago is the fullbacks that you've signed. So if you think of Kerkez, one of Kerkez's biggest qualities is his crossing. Frimpong is good at hitting these kind of crosses around the corner, not necessarily from deep, but you know, from around the city. And Isak is an answer for that. If you didn't sign him, you'd have a bit of a weapon there that you're not really using because you don't have the presence in the box. Maybe Gakpo can do it, but Isak adds to that aerial threat. So I think just signing him in addition to him being amazing, obviously, is how he helps everyone else. I haven't even touched on Wirtz yet.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the things that I find interesting, I think I maybe talked a little bit about this last week, is whenever I watch his sort of Newcastle build-up play, quite often I'll see him come deep and then fizz a ball in to the winger with the idea of him spinning his man and creating space. Absolutely, I can see Salah playing an outside of the boot ball off that move, 100%.
Yeah, same.
But I also think there is going to be a little bit of an adaptation where sometimes you're feeding Salah from that. And I think at Newcastle he probably wouldn't. He'd more likely play the pass just in front of them to spin himself in. And I can't wait to see the changes that it makes to Salah's game, and maybe Isak makes to accommodate the fact that he's got Mo Salah alongside him.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to follow Salah with this, because I think he's already had a relatively, I don't want to say quiet.
It's been quiet.
Well, he's got 2 scoring returns. I think he's got a goal and an assist in open play. No penalties yet, and he's come up against 3 really good teams, and it's been difficult start for Liverpool. So
was one of the assists the Szoboszlai step over?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was.
All right.
But to be fair, he played one of them earlier in the game, I think, to Curtis Jones, and Jones just...
It's Szoboszlai's assist, though, yeah?
Yeah, that one is
okay.
Earlier in the
just
game.
Just as long as we agree on that.
But I think Salah might have to... I think we said this when we signed Nunes. Salah might have to become a bit more of a facilitator.
Well, he did. He did.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
He absolutely did. So we know he can do it, and he'd probably be more open to it at 33 years old anyway. It's just fascinating, isn't it? And I think he'll be ready for it. And I think when you've got Isak there, good footballers know how to play with good footballers, don't they? So let's talk about Florian Wirtz. I'm really interested to talk Florian Wirtz with you for a second, because I've said this a few times. I don't know whether you noticed it, but in the game against Arsenal, first half, lots of this side of the ball. I thought he was much better second when he was drifting this way. And I just wonder whether we're going to see a little bit of a shift we're going to see more of him over this side than at this side at some point. Do you agree with that, or do you think that might happen?
Yeah, well, it's a curious one, actually, because I think if you think of what Wirtz might need to thrive, I actually think he'd benefit more from a Haaland than an Isak, potentially, because Haaland is doing that, taking centre-halves with him and creating space in the 10 for Wirtz to just use, basically. Isak can do a bit more of the come-to-feet stuff. I don't think he'll get in Wirtz's way. You know, obviously not. And he's a great mover and all that, so Wirtz will be able to put the ball on the play for him many, many times and stuff. But going back to what you've just mentioned there, Isak does favour the left. Drifting into that channel and stuff, he drifts out wide sometimes. I think Wirtz has a slight preference towards that, and you've just mentioned that there in the Arsenal game. He plays better when he's over here. So I think one thing I'm curious to see is whether we end up with a bit of that going on, where especially if Ekitike's starting over Gakpo, which I'm not sure that will happen, but it could be a case of Salah over here with Frimpong just kind of waiting for the bus, and over here you've got Gakpo, you've got Wirtz, and you've got Isak, because that's just where they favour. So it's not the worst thing either, by the way.
Look at me, boom, beautiful ball,
exactly,
bang, goal.
Exactly. If the ball's over there, it will have that impact on whoever you're coming up against. And
people always like to leave 2 anyway on Salah.
Yeah.
But you can't leave, you need to put almost 3 on them too.
Yeah. But it could be a case of Salah ends up a bit on the periphery, or it could end up with him benefiting from the space, or it could end up with him, you know, the ball gets played here and that, and then when it comes over to here, this guy finishes the move.
Yeah.
So there's lots of ways it can work, but I think that's what I'm curious to see. I'm curious to see it in action. Because with this sort of thing, usually there's always teething problems, and you move past it over time, but you see the teething problems at the very start, so I'm curious to see what it looks like. But with Ekitike, who's very similar to Isak, he looks like a seamless fit. So if it works anything like it has with him, then we'll be fine. What
about, we wanted to look at this straight down the line, didn't we? Are there any red flags for you in Alexander Isak, in the sign of Isak?
As a player, when he's on the pitch, no. I think he is as much of a sure bet as you're getting, for the reasons I've stated, really. As in,
And you don't like signing nines either, do you?
No, I don't. But if you're going to sign one, sign him. If you're going to sign one who can play well without scoring. Sign one who isn't limited to a specific tactical environment like Haaland to thrive. Haaland needs specific conditions to do well. Isak doesn't. Isak will do well in, a Man City system, a Arsenal system, a Liverpool system, whoever it may be. He's going to thrive because he can do all that. And he's technically really good in the air, great shooter from outside the box, inside the box, dribbler, everything. I think the red flag that we do have is the availability stuff, because he's not overly accustomed to playing 3 games a week, and he does have availability concerns that he's had at Newcastle. One thing I've pointed out is his trending has been upwards since he's joined English football. So first season he starts 17 Premier League games, then he starts 27, and then he starts 34. So it's improving. But I think when I say red flag as well, it's not necessarily a red flag. It's more like you've spent 125 million on this fella who I think I'm right in saying since he joined Newcastle has started 66% of games.
2/3.
125 million.
Yeah.
And that's out of 3 seasons. So if it's 2/3 out of 3 seasons, he's essentially missed an entire season of football since he's been in England. I am a little bit surprised that Liverpool have done it for that reason. As in, for him to pay back 125 million, he has to be on the pitch. And he's just on the pitch less than Van Dijk, Alisson, really, Salah. So it's harder for him to pay it back. But when he's on the field, hopefully you can keep him fit. If he's on the pitch, he's worth it.
That was a clip from the deep dive. To check out the whole show, head to redmenplus.com or click the link in the description.